Good evening and welcome. I am Lawrence Perry, and this is Sean Leahy. We are both environmental health inspectors and work here under the authority of the Board of Health as delegated by Mass General laws. We oversee permitting and perform related inspections for several different codes of regulations in addition to all our local Board of Health regulations. Tonight, we will be focusing on rodent complaints as associated with the state minimum requirements for fitness for human habitation and also the local dumpster regulations. Sean has a presentation to assist our citizens to better understand rodent behavior and what you as residents can do to reduce rodent issues on your properties and in our community. And Sean will now give his presentation, after which we can take a few questions. Thank you.
Good evening. First of all, I'd like to start just by saying that Larry and myself, we are not rat experts. We are health inspectors. As health inspectors, we have multiple different realms that we get into, and rodents, nuisance complaints, just happens to be one of them. So we do always tend to kind of lean towards the experts. In this case, with rodents and rats, or any other insect pest, pest control companies are definitely the way to go if you're having an issue with any of them. So starting off, I'm just going to let everyone know that I believe SMAC is recording this tonight, so it will be available for future use. So we'll get started here. Rats, where did they come from? So pretty much, and people have been around rats. Rats have been around people since like the beginning of time. Where there's people, you're going to find rats. I mean, they seek out, the three main things are food, water, and shelter. Development, happening, construction, urban development, that can displace rats. It can, push them if they're in burrows. Excavation displaces their home. They're going to seek out a new home. Climate change, as we all know, there's talk of, global warming. Unfortunately, with global warming, it actually seems to be increasing the rat population as well. It's kind of creating longer winters. I mean, not longer winters. I mean, longer off-season, so shorter winters, where there's like a longer time for rats to actually, expand and reproduce and cause, the population to get bigger. So, can rats spread disease? They can. Rats can carry hantavirus, leptospirosis, bacterial infections, but they are extremely rare. There's only been one case of hantavirus ever reported in Massachusetts, so that's good news. Leptospirosis typically occurs after touching infected urine of the wildlife. I believe recently there was it the Gene Hackman case? Was that leptospirosis they were talking about? Mexico? Yeah, I think that was with mice, and that might have been a cause of kind of the unfortunate situation that was out there. So it is a dangerous thing. If there is any rat waste, mice, rodent waste that you're noticing you're seeing, it should be handled properly. So you clean it up with gloves, cleaning solution. Don't vacuum it or sweep it, making it airborne. You don't want to be breathing that stuff in. So prevention. Trash is a big thing. Trash should be stored in tight-fitting, rodent-proof receptacles. That is a big one. Obviously, any rodents, as we all know, especially if you leave it, any bag of trash out, put it out on the side for pickup. Sometimes in the morning you'll notice trash has been spread out, and that goes for anything, squirrels, raccoons, possums, but rats are smaller and they will definitely get into barrels that aren't actually sealed up properly. Your property itself, maintain the property by sealing any gaps, keeping your yard clean. Remove any food or water sources. Bird feeders is a big one that we keep hearing about. People have been able to see rats actually at the bottom underneath the bird feeders feeding on the bird seed that has fallen down onto the ground. And another one is just basically talk to your neighbors. chances are, if you see rat activity on your property, your neighbors will probably have seen rat activity as well. Us as inspectors, we've gone out for complaints, doing some research, have talked to neighbors, and it seems to be, kind of like a neighborhood thing. Where they are, generally, they're noticed by several property owners, especially in dense areas where houses are tightly with each other there. So again, work with your neighbors. It's a community effort. Anyone who needs assistance, if you could help them out, like the older community, if they need help with repairing any issues, to just help not attract rodents or rats to their property, that is definitely a good thing to do. So one thing that can be done for treating rats like an infestation is the rodenticide. Again, only a pest control company, a licensed pest control company in the state of Massachusetts should be using these measures. There are stuff that you can buy in the regular stores, the hardware stores. There's deterrents you can use as well. Pest control companies can also use other alternatives, such as the carbon monoxide treatments, where they pump that carbon monoxide down into the burrows. I believe zap traps are more of like an electrical trap that'll actually shock and electrocute the rat once it enters the trap. So we have heard recently about other towns and cities, especially cities, using like zap traps in the sewer systems underground recently, especially in the uptick. So consider calling a professional if you're having a hard time, taking care of the issue yourself. A pest control company would be your best resource. They will come up with a plan for you. They know what to look for. They know the different types of, rodent droppings. So they'll be able to kind of come up with a plan, and they'll tell you to kind of what to do to help prevent and while they're treating. And it's not an overnight thing. It takes a while to get rid of a rodent problem before they move on. So being able to recognize some signs as a homeowner, property owner, will kind of help you going forward. They have these burrows. They do like to burrow in the ground. These pictures here kind of show burrows. I know there are some other rodents that burrow. I know like chipmunks, I believe, burrow in the ground. So they look very similar. But rats also use these types of structures that they build. They burrow into compost piles. They'll burrow into that. So if you see a compost pile with holes in it, it could be rodents as well. Here are the droppings. The bigger droppings, rounded, darker pellets. This one says about the size of a jelly bean, is more of a rat dropping. The smaller ones, the rice-sized ones, are from mice. You'll see gnawing marks. Trash cans, the plastic lids, they like to chew on those to get in. And this just isn't rats either. I mean, squirrels do this. Squirrels will get on top of trash cans, and they will chew on stuff. It actually, I don't know if it helps with their teeth as well, but I'm not an expert as well. But if you see any types of gnawing, obviously gnawing like these marks on this trash can here, that is rodent activity. Nesting, kind of a strange picture here for nesting, but it's more for harborage. If you see, like I said before, any burrows that are in the ground, like compost piles, but if there's also like brush piles, they like to go into brush piles, wooded areas. Same with junk. If you got junk piles, just an easy place for rodents to hide. They'll hide there. They don't want to see us. They don't want to be near us. They do, but they want to get their food and get out of here. Like they don't want to be recognized by people. They see us, they scatter. But they're always lurking, and if they have an easy place to hide and nest while they can come in and out and get food and water, they'll stick around. So you want to limit food, water, and shelter. So again, protecting your home, keeping your yard clutter-free, like I said, of like brush and debris, and even any piles of junk that, people may be collecting, saving onto things. If you start seeing rodent activity, you might want to get rid of some of that stuff, some of the things you're holding on to. Seal any gaps in fences, doors, windows, drains. This is kind of a strange picture in the middle. It looks like a D-box almost to a septic system, but I don't think the rats go in the D-box there. But he might be doing something with the drainage thing there. Clean your grills. I've seen videos we probably all have seen videos on the news recently of rats kind of going in and out of grills. It's just an easy access for them to get in there. So unfortunately, they do, like, there's food material in there. Leftover grease will attract the rats, unfortunately. So keep those grills clean. Raised garden beds are a good idea too. Any other, like, fallen fruit or vegetables, it's a food source, so you want to limit those too. And unfortunately, this is all stuff that we like to do as people. We like to garden and feed ourselves, but they do attract nuisances such as rats as well. Trash and recycling, like I said before, it's a big one. Make sure it's stored properly in bins and with no holes, heavy, tight-fitting lids. Some of those stainless steel cans, I don't think rats can chew through that. I know people with chicken coops, they keep their feed in those types of containers because it's really hard for rodents to get in there. Rinse out any recyclables, use rodent-proof composting bins. And it's best to put out your trash on pickup day in the morning. I know a lot of people put them out the night before. It's not really good practice because especially overnight, and that's when less people are around. It's an easy food source for the rats or any other rodents to come and to go after that trash. Avoid feeding the wildlife. Like I said, bird feeders before. But any other wildlife, I know there are people that like to feed, like, deer and raccoons and swans and stuff like that, but still, it's going to attract any wildlife, and rats are considered wildlife. That's kind of what we always tell people. Rats aren't just a certain nuisance that's just rare. They're wildlife. They're an animal, and they're out there. They're just like a squirrel or anything else, but rats do have a really negative connotation that is associated with them. So what is Stoughton doing? We do education. I mean, we do get a lot of calls and complaints when people see rat activity going on in their properties or businesses. So we do have a guide that we provide people. There's some paperwork up there that's available if anybody would like to take some home. We do treatments on town properties, municipal buildings, schools. They have ongoing pest control services. The other thing that we can do, even though it might be private property, because the town can't go on to someone's property and start treating and start trapping. It's private property. We're not allowed to do that. But we can help if there's a property owner who is contributing to the issue. So say there's garbage that's not being stored in barrels, if they're just putting bags out on the side of their house or something like that. We can document that. If we can drive by, see that, we can document that. And us as town health inspectors, we have several codes that we could cite the homeowners, the property owners, to not do that, basically. We would send a violation order saying you need to, if it's a trash issue, to store trash in proper containers. Same with wildlife feeders. If we have documentation, that's why it's underlined here. So we have to document that we can actually see activity of rodents. And once there is documented rodent activity, then we look to see what's around in the area. We're not going to tell everybody in town to get rid of their bird feeder. But if there's a neighbor who's dealing with a rat issue and there's a bird feeder within 50 feet of a burrow or like a documented activity, we're going to recommend that property owner remove the bird feeder. Water sources is another big thing. Just, stagnant water. People live in containers out that will collect rainwater. It's a water source. If we see the same thing, activity, and we see a water source somewhere, people aren't draining things, or if there's buckets or tires collecting water, we could document that, and we could speak to and send the property owner an order to correct it. And then, like I said before, rodent harborage. We could document if there's documented activity on someone's property and we see a potential rodent harborage, we could also get involved there as well. So that is kind of the end of the presentation here. Doing my research here, I found a couple of interesting quotes here from some studies. The first one here is from the University of Michigan conservation scientist Neil Carter. He stated, "We can fight them better, but in the end, people need to coexist with wildlife in urban environments, even with rats." But then you get into, some other, opinions here, especially the last one, kind of related to that one. Zero rats is impossible, but I think an expectation that we need to live with the number of rats that we're seeing is also an unhealthy perspective on the problem. So it's not like we just have to deal with the uptick in the rat population. We should be trying to limit, the rat population, and any activity that may be detrimental or unhealthy to the population. But the other quote here from the Richmond Global Study, just they analyzed 16 cities. 11 out of 16 had increased rat populations over the past 20 years. That's about 70%. Cities that experience greater rates of temperature increases, global warming, and more people moving in, obviously had bigger rat problems. More people, more rats. So looking at the few cities where the rats have actually, the reports are down, the answer is not, more poison and more traps, but prevention. That's what they seem to be, focusing on, is prevention seems to be the key here of limiting and not having the rat population grow any better. I mean, bigger, sorry. Not better, definitely not better. So, lastly, I'd just like to thank everyone for coming. This is my little friend here. I don't like to make light of the rat situation. It is an issue, and it can be pretty disturbing. A lot of people have phobias, so we don't take this lightly at all. But yeah, if there is an issue, if there's a serious issue, the best thing to do is to contact the pest control company. They are the professionals. We can't recommend anybody, and that's what this says here. You can do a quick online Google search for pest control. You'll come up with, in our area, I don't know how many, dozens of different companies. So there are many, many exterminators out there, and a lot of information out there too. I mean, a lot of this information was just, I get from resources from other public health resources and stuff, but a lot of it is, coming from pest control companies and their websites. It's just kind of standard practices for making sure that the issue doesn't get any worse. So with that, if there's any questions, I know we had a discussion before the meeting started about mice. Mice are very, very similar. Once mice get inside the house, it's kind of a different animal. Rats are more exterior. Rats can get in the house too, and you don't want to see rats running through your TV room at night. But a more common thing, you might see a mouse here and there. This one's more focused on the rat activity that's been coming out lately in the past couple of years. But they are very similar. They're both rodents. One's bigger, one's smaller. The smaller ones can get into the tiniest little spaces. And we do take a lot of mice complaints at the Board of Health as well. And one thing I do always emphasize to the people who are dealing with these issues is that, especially if they're renting an apartment or a house, everyone needs to be involved. Everyone, as far as the owner, the residents, and the pest control company. It's three parties, and all need to work together to have the best, control. If there's somebody living inside that's, a resident, and they're, not doing what the pest control company recommended, whether that's like cleaning up, decluttering, putting food into containers, it's just the progress is just going to be extremely slow to get rid of the mice. So everyone needs to work together and follow the advice of the pest control specialists in order to live safely without these rodents. But they are around, and if there's any other questions anybody has, Larry and I are here. We have some other resources, and we'll try to help anybody out if they need assistance. Thank you. Any questions? You have anything to add, Larry?
I guess let's see what questions we have first.
Thank you, Larry and Sean. You did a great job. Very informative, very professional. I got more of just a comment because your presentation was point on when you said the bird feeders. I live personally in a very rural area and never saw a rat, ever, for the 40 years I've lived there. And then when COVID came, everybody was putting bird feeders up, including my wife, where there were 25 bird feeders around the yard. So there was spillings everywhere of bird feed, seed. So the rats came from that. And we got rid of the bird feeders, and there was no rats. It was as simple as that. So it was a great point. I just wanted to mention it. And great job again.
Thank you. Just based on what you're saying there too, I was just kind of thinking of my own personal experience. My thing was the trash. I actually came home one night. I had trash cans that didn't have the best lids. They had squirrel marks chewed up in it, and I wasn't the best of covering my trash. And then one night we got home. It was after dark, and I just saw one just jump out of the barrel. It heard us coming and just jumped right out. And I went out the next day, got tight-fitting trash containers. I haven't seen one since. Not a live one, but we did find one, a deceased one, in my in-laws' driveway, which is next door. So there are homeowners around that are treating themselves, and they might be using poison. So if you do have cats, dogs, especially dogs, not many people walk their cats, but anyways, if you're walking your dog, make sure they don't grab any deceased rodent that's on the ground, because there could be a chance that they could get secondary poisoning from whatever that animal ingested. So just an extra point there.
About a suggestion, advertise, people know these things.
Sure, okay, yep, we could do that. And this is a recording as well. So we'll be able to send this out to anybody that has any questions or, wants some information on it.
A lot of this information is on our website. It's been posted there. It's a rat informational guide, and then we do get complaints, and we email those out to the complainants. So we try to educate people as much as we can.
Okay, any other questions before we wrap up this public informational session? Yes?
You mentioned sailants. What type of sailant?
So you mean like, yeah, I mean, unfortunately, we did invite a couple pest control companies out here tonight to see if they could lend their expertise. I know you can use caulking, the spray foam, but I've also heard that they can chew right through this stuff. Steel wool, people pack steel wool into the holes too because they don't like to chew on that. It's very, I guess they got sensitive teeth and they don't like to chew on metal. Yeah, I mean, you could try pretty much. I wouldn't recommend the foam stuff. It just seems like it's too easy to get through, especially, if you could seal something up properly with either like a mesh or wood, and then you can just, caulk around the outside of the wood, so it's just not, it's less attractive. That's probably the best way to go. But again, I mean, I can look into some more research. What is the best sealant? That's a good question. Yeah.
It is the path of least resistance. So if that's all you have, I'd try that first because they might just go on to the next place that's easier to get into. So, but if you find that they are chewing through the foam or whatever you're using, then you got to step it up and use some steel mesh or a steel grate or something. But you can try I had a problem with mice, and I used the expandable foam, and it seems to have worked so far. So they're either found another source or decided to go somewhere that's easier to get into.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, I'd like to thank everybody for coming tonight. Again, if anyone has any additional questions or wants to reach out to Larry and myself, you can reach us here at the Town Hall, second floor, Board of Health office. And we hope everyone stays rodent-free. Thank you.
Our emails are on the website. Feel free to email us or call us anytime. Good night.